Welcome to the Vault Podcast, everybody. My name is Dave Wakerley. I'm sitting here beside Dan Learcher.
And for the first time in 2023...
That's correct.
Welcome.
Welcome. It's so good to be back. 2023, lots coming up this year, lots of exciting things. Now, I see you've got Terry.
Yeah.
I think we need to, Terry, we salute Terry.
Yeah, because we probably will forget it for every other episode. So let's do it once,
all right,
properly for the year.
Hey.
Done. Oh, gosh. Oh, no. Is that a good sign?
No, it's not a good sign. If you don't understand what's going on, don't worry, neither do we. It's a tradition that started from at the very beginning of the podcast.
Yes, episode 1.
And for some reason, we keep it going, right?
Correct.
Now, Dan.
Hi.
First episode of the year.
Yep. New set.
Kind of a new set. You may not have seen this backdrop before. A lot of talk shows, late night television talk shows, have got a cityscape in the background.
They actually have a city.
They
in
do.
The background.
We have wallpaper that looks like a city.
But Dave, you put this up yourself.
I did.
Yeah.
And you can see there's the seams here, and they're actually quite like. Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's
fine.
It's fine.
Fine.
Today, though, this new set, Dan and I, just by ourselves today, because we wanted to talk about something to kick off the year that is very fresh in our minds.
Summer camp.
Summer camp, indeed.
Now, the reason it's fresh in our minds is we finished our last one yesterday.
That's correct.
I'm very tired.
And then we slept in the small. I was really felt it last night.
Yeah.
I was exhausted. So if you're wondering what summer, but it's the end of January, well, that's because you're in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah. It's really hot over here.
But it's good too, because it's good to have. If you're watching this now, you'll be planning summer camp in July.
Yeah, prep for your summer camp July specials.
The topic for today is this one secret will make your kids' camp 132% better.
Now, when we talk about camp, I need to let you know for some of our Northern Hemisphere friends.
Yeah. Yes.
You could also put this to a VBS.
Oh,
as
yes.
well,
Yes.
Because some camps over there, like school camps, holiday camps, something, they can go for many, many weeks.
Many weeks, yes.
And they look a little bit different. But over here, our camp would roughly last a week. Like 3 to 4 days type thing.
Oh, is that a week? 3 to 4 days?
Well,
like a work week?
Well, yeah, that's how much I work generally.
Right, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yes, we would do 3 days, 2 nights away for our year 5 and 6s, just before high school kids. Mm-hmm. And then we have a day camp, of course. What we do is a day camp for our younger kids. Mm-hmm. No nights away, but we just take them away for a day. And that's the one we just finished yesterday. And then we start the spiel, and then we're getting into the stand.
Fantastic. Do the spiel.
We know not everyone leader in kids ministry is in a big staff team. No. In fact, more than half the churches around the world have solo pastors. But no one should be alone in ministry. Oh, no. So we humbly ask you to consider us a part of your team. Welcome to the Vault, where you keep your most valuable things. And what is more valuable than wisdom? The wisdom that's going to be imparted today is from us.
From me and you.
Not always. We don't really like to think of ourselves as wise. But
we don't like to toot our own horn, but it's the start of the year, so...
Toot, 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 toot. Now, this is what we're going to talk about today. There's one thing I think that a lot of summer camps need to know, and a lot of events need to know. And to be honest, we use this technique in all of our events that we put on for kids.
Oh, we cracked the code.
We have cracked the code, and there's a few things. We want to change the way that you do your events and your kids' ministry camps.
Because you're doing it wrong.
And that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to fix all your mistakes.
Yes.
Not really, but I know you do incredible things, but we want to bring about an approach that has helped us, and I think literally, as I say here, has made our events 132% better.
I reckon if you go back to one of our events, it was about 8 years ago.
Right.
We stumbled across this, and because we did put a lot of effort into our shows, into our performances, our rallies, our games, all that sort of stuff, and we stumbled across this thing. And the engagement was off the charts. We have never experienced kids being so into, I hit the microphone, so into something, and so leaning in, which actually then made our rallies, our games, all of our other experiences so much better. And we're going to share that with you today.
We are about to share that. So let's start that off, because I want you to change the way that you think about how the structure of your team first.
Ooh.
Let's start with that. Sometimes when you think about an event, the team that pulls off the upfront ministry is the creative team, and they kind of if you've got, for example, worship rallies where kids do praise and worship, you preach to the kids, and then you go off and do different activities. Let's just start with that idea. Is we do the same thing. We have our kids in groups, small groups generally, in tribes, like a lot of kids ministries around the world. Groups, tribe, a team, what was another name for tribe? Like a pod, we used to call them.
Like a pod, yeah.
Boys and girls, colours, whatever it was, different.
Groups, yeah.
You'd have the green tribe, the yellow tribe, and you give them names, and you give them fun names. And we've done that for years, but they didn't really mean anything.
They didn't.
And it was just a way to group them together. Well, also what we would do, Dan, is we would have massive competitions between the tribes, because competition is the secret sauce of children's ministry, except when it's not.
Except when it's not. Because that is, someone came up with that idea and they said, let's run with that for 40 years.
Competition.
So let's give out points, which mean nothing.
Yep.
And let's just make that up as we go along. And at the end, half the kids will be disappointed.
Yes, and crying.
Other half the kids will be happy. Actually, most of the kids won't even care, but that's another.
Well, and competition we've found is definitely counterintuitive, especially not just to kids ministry, because it brings emotions. I don't know. There's winners and losers, and if we're talking about the Bible, and if we're talking about the kingdom of God, there is never any competition in the kingdom of God.
Right.
And we've said it on the podcast before. We are always 50-50 on this idea. Competition is great because kids get into it. It helps you engagement. But on the other hand, it's not really what we want to be imparting to them as a church. We don't really want to foster the idea of competition, because it's not a biblical or a kingdom-based idea.
Also, we're not 100% sure how competition has been displayed in their own families.
Right.
We do know that competition can borderline be unhealthy in some families, between siblings and sporting events, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite hard to go to church. Then you've got to compete as well.
So we would strongly suggest you really look at the ideas and the themes of competition in your kids ministry, because it could be hurting, not helping. I would say that, hurting, not helping. So let's start with that idea. And so what we're looking forward instead is, and an idea we talk about a lot today is about a shared experience.
Correct.
We want to design an activity. We want to design a service, a program, an event which helps the most introverted of your kids connect with other kids. Extroverts, not a problem. They'll make a friend in 42 seconds with 14 kids around them.
Give them a paper bag and time, and that's all they need.
Just time. So they don't even need a paper bag. So we are looking to help the most introverted of kids. Dan and I were doing something on the weekend at church at another location.
Yes.
And one of the kids was sitting at the back of the room, and Dan and I both saw him. And you know that kid, and he's like, come on in, come and sit with the kids. And at some point you just go, you know what?
We'll leave you there.
That's close enough.
We're gonna get you.
We are gonna get you. So halfway, all the kids were answering these quizzes that we had, basic quizzes up on the screen. Waiting for him to give an answer. He gave the correct answer. Dan and I just went nuts. We started running around the room pretending he had just done the greatest thing in the world, and you could see a little crack of a smile. Yeah. And it was just that idea of.
And then that kid grew up to be TDJ.
Yes. And that really became an extrovert, didn't he? But that idea of the extroverted kids are easy. You've got to work hard to get those other kids that feel on the outer, feel on the side, don't want to be a part of the group. And that's what we're looking to do here. And we're also, this idea is you don't get 100% of kids 100% of the time.
You do not.
If you're giving out trading cards, as we always do in most of our events, our trading cards which tie into this idea we're talking about, not 100% of the kids are going to absolutely go nuts over them. It's for a certain, you want to always get a certain percentage and have different fun things for them.
Yes, so what we try and do is, obviously you want to aim for most of the kids, but there's always a few things in there. There's enough variety in there.
Yes.
For the kids that like to think over things deeply, then they can get something out of it. The kids that like to be extroverted, they can get something out of it. The kids that like to collect things, the kids that like to solve puzzles. There's all these sort of...
we get 100% of the kids with all of our things together as the goal.
Right, but we would find that quite often we would just go to the standard. Well, it's easy to say, let's do a talent show, and then we're only getting the kids that have the talents. Let's do this thing. Let's do chants. Let's do games. We only get the athletic kids.
Right.
So we are this is a lot of teasing, Dave. We have teased.
We are teased. Let's talk about this idea.
Okay.
This is what we call the story team, the storyline team. This is all about story. If you think about an event, and you'll see this a lot in publishers who've published VBS or curriculum, they will announce, they have these massive big announcement sessions where they will go, next year's VBS theme is jungle. Or what was the other one they do a lot of? A safari. Some kind of beach theme.
Yeah,
and
pirates.
It's as if it's pirates. It's as if that's enough. It's as if, okay, we're going to talk about pirates. And people think, oh, good, I've got a theme.
No, they go, oh, great, I've got a hat.
Right.
And I've already got a hat. Everything's going to be great.
It's in a sense, that is going halfway. That's kind of halfway to the solution, because the end result is not, hey, kids are going to learn about safari animals.
No.
The end result is, the theme is halfway there. And I'll explain it like this. The video, I've talked about this before, I feel like on the podcast, is the video game case.
Yes.
That is the case that you buy with the video game in it. It looks pretty. You can see the characters. It's fun. I want to play it. You look at the back. You go, oh, goodness, looks like a really fun game. But that is not the game.
No.
That is the outside. That's the vibe and the feel and the design of the game. What's the most important part is the mechanics of the game.
The game mechanics.
And the
prettiest game in the world will not work if it's got bad mechanics.
If it's boring to play, it's not going to be fun.
Yes.
So what we focus on are the game mechanics, and we feel like that is what's missing in a lot of events that for kids is, okay, it's safari, you've dressed up, great. We're singing songs about safaris. We're incorporating that together.
Someone's done a safari dance.
But I would say this.
Safari craft.
We don't even do themes anymore.
No.
Because the theme is...
We tried, but after a while, the mechanics and the other stuff became so important that people didn't even realize it was safari theme. And we spent thousands of dollars on hiring real-life...
Animals?
So
what we do at summer camp, we don't go, come to summer camp, the theme this year is going to be all about drawing near to God or something, or that's not a great example, but we just go, camp is awesome. And when they get to camp, they discover all of this mechanics in the camp that they get to be a part of. And so we honestly, the events that we do now, we don't really advertise them as sometimes there'll be a bit of a fun theme, like, drawing near to God is probably what we did for conference last year, wasn't it? But so roughly our leaders will then, our curriculum will kind of revolve around that a little bit. But I would much rather have, it's like this idea of you're at camp with these kids, or you're at an event with these kids, and you're going to be speaking to the kids. What are you going to speak about? Well, you're going to speak about what you feel God wants to say to these kids at this time. And maybe it's slightly different than the theme. And what's the point of going, no, you must talk about this Bible verse. No, you must talk about this topic and this theme. Or rather than, this is really what I think God wants to speak to these kids at this time about.
Now, funny enough, at our summer camp, we did have a theme that went through our preaching, which was Let Your Light Shine.
Correct.
And obviously our preachers went in different ways, but we didn't even tell the kids that.
No.
It was part of their KDG's activities.
Small groups.
None of that was advertised. It was
here's what you can speak about. Yeah, and that really is sometimes the theming. There's so much emphasis put on the message and the preaching message to the kids, as if that's the central thing that the kids will learn about God, is that 10-minute, 15, 20-minute talk. Now, yes, I do believe in the power of preaching. I believe it's this thing that even though experts in communications, the kids would say it's not the way that you communicate to kids. There's more effective ways of doing it. I still think preaching has a place in our kids' ministries. But in saying that, I don't think that that's the be-all and end-of-all. Make sure the kids listen to the preaching and then they'll be fine. No, there's so much more that can happen in small groups and interacting in shared experiences. God can move through so many different things to bring about discipleship. Right, and we can do so many more things than that. Just that 20-minute message. So that's when we're talking about our gathering and our rallies, sometimes there's just this massive emphasis that this is the moment for spiritual things, and everything else is just fun and games. Well, no. The rally that we do is, yes, it's time for impartation, preaching and worship, but also that little moment there is a time to set up with story all the other time, the 90% of the time you're outside of the rally, the preaching.
So the first thing you need to do in your summer camps is you need to give your campers, your kids, a goal.
Exactly.
So every year there is a goal. Now, a lot of times would be, okay, you're in 2 teams, your goal is to win. Okay, and that is, yes, a default, and you can do that. But we can do other goals. And this year we decided to try a different goal. And we gave them a goal, which was on the final night, there will be a party.
Yep.
And your goal is to have the best party possible.
Mm-hmm.
So now they've got a goal. They're working to make that a reality.
Because depending on how well you did at these tasks that we set, will determine how good your party will be.
Correct. So then we set a checklist. Mm-hmm. The checklist was a variety of different things that were
activities, tasks, goals.
Activities, tasks, goals that were related to a whole bunch of different things that cast a wide net. And then as you go through them, you get to check them off. You get to earn some credits, and those credits went towards your final.
Right. So the higher your number, the higher of tasks you completed, the more lollies, candy that you get that we'll give you for this party. Yep. The later you're able to stay up past lights out.
Yes.
Which is a massive. Kids want that. They really want that. So summer camp was. This we want to achieve that rather than we want to beat the other team. We want to have the best party. So we flip the story away from competition to almost a sense you're competing with yourself to see how well you can do. The amazing thing, Dan, is magically everybody got the best party. How did that happen?
Well, we had party packs.
Yep.
So we had 3 different levels, and you had to achieve a certain amount of cabin credits to get those levels. Now, magically, those weren't set until we saw how people were going. So everyone did get the same amount.
Everyone got them.
The same amount of lollies.
Their merit. It was their merit.
But they did get different bedtimes.
Yes, that's
true.
Now,
the bedtimes differed from, I think there was about a 23-minute swing in both of these. But they were presented with a certificate.
That's right.
Permission to party.
A permission to party certificate.
I think we can show a picture up on the screen.
Sure. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's appeared in front of our faces. If I could find it.
Yes. Permission to party, and they were able to present this to stay up a little later, and that was enough for the goal. Now, this is what really cool about having a checklist rather than a competition. There were some kids that were determined that this was a competition. They were like, "Yes, are we beating other people?"
Like,
We're like, "Well,
are we in the lead? Yes.
Are we in the lead?" And you're like, "Yes, but there is no lead."
Right.
But for them, they were in the lead.
Yeah, for the kids that love competition, they just wanted to know that they were first. And again, that's the thing. Different kids react differently to these competitions.
And we're getting to the point where we've discovered a secret this year. This is
before we go to the secret, is this about the
yes
the what is it, the talent
show? Yeah.
Before we do that, the fun thing that we got to do, Dan and I and one of the other leaders walked around at night. Trying to shut off all the parties.
Yes.
And you'd knock on the door of the cabin. You'd say, "Sorry, it's lights out. You need to go to sleep now." And they would bring out their certificate,
their permission to party
certificate, and say, "We've got till this time." We're like, "I'm sorry about that. Sorry, we didn't realize." It was all a bit of fun and games. But we walked around every cabin, and every cabin got the opportunity to show us they had permission to party,
and we had to leave them.
We had to leave, and we were like very apologetic, and it was a great moment, a really fun moment.
It was.
Now, what did we discover, Dan?
So we discovered we put one of the things on the checklist. There were some quite fun ones, like have a rant today.
Oh, yes.
Have a devotional with your leader was a great one. Try to get everyone on a certain piece of play.
Keeping your there was like ones that help camping, which is keeping your cabin tidy.
Yep.
Not getting water in your cabin, because that's the worst. If water gets in cabins and they get damp, it's a horrible experience. So there were really practical ones, fun ones. When kids would come up and rant to me, it'd be about anything. Some kids would just be. My favorite one was when the kid came up to me and said, "I can't stand it when people use a Z instead of an S, like at the end of kids." And I'm like, I agree with that rant, and we would have a rant back and forward how we didn't like that. That was a fun one.
Now, whoever's someone listening right now is receiving a spirit of conviction because there's a Z in their name, and that's fine.
It might be time for it to come back around again, though.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
maybe.
It's culturally, maybe it's ready for its moment.
Yeah, written in Comic Sans. And so one of them was, we said, let's do a talent show.
Yes.
So for the talent show, which is a staple at camp.
Oh,
it's very
yes.
stressful.
Since I was a kid, there was the talent show, and your cabin would get together and have to put a show on.
And you would prep for
Oh.
it, because you had to make sure you were pretty good, and you wanted to kind of win or just not be embarrassed and all that sort of stuff.
That was mainly what we were looking for,
But
not be
instead,
embarrassed.
we just opened it up. We was there for 45 minutes, and we said, you can come, you can perform in front of the judges, and all the judges were judging is, was that a talent? Because you weren't trying to win, you were
Yes.
just trying to get it ticked off your list.
You wanted a tick for it, so the pressure was off, and kids would do big, elaborate. The kids that were into it, again,
Practice for a day,
Yep.
and worked it out and walked
Yep.
it through. Other kids literally made something up on
On the spot.
and
Yep.
it was amazing.
it didn't matter. The pressure was off. They were doing it not to be good and not to show everybody their skill, to get a checklist checked off, but it didn't negate the ones that really wanted to be a part of this.
So the amazing thing about it was we told people they didn't have to stay and watch, but most people did.
Yep.
We had a packed audience, and the audience was way more generous because people were just having a
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And we took away the competition, and it actually made it much a better if it
Yeah.
was a competition, it was a much better competition.
Yep.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. And we also kept, by the way, you've got to keep them short. A minute for your talent. You don't want to do, some kids sing a 7-minute long Queen Bohemian Rhapsody. You know what I mean? You've got to, and we didn't really have any problem with length because everyone was really short as well. But again, you do want to say you've got a minute to show your talent, and that helps keep it manageable, because 45 minutes in and out, done. The whole campsite was in and out and done.
So we're going to play around with this concept some more. We were chatting to one of our amazing leaders, Liz. I think she's been on the podcast before.
She has
was, yes.
at Kiddsong.
Yes, and she said she was running they want to run a battle of the bands at school. She works at a school, and they had 0 sign-ups. It was going to be a big competition, and they've got a lot of musical kids, and no one wanted to sign up. So she suggested, let's just change it to a music festival. And they...
Right.
So
That's what it called. It was like the showcase or something, or maybe it was a music festival.
Yeah, music festival showcase where you can sign up and just have a go.
Yeah.
And it was so popular they had to run it for multiple days.
Yes.
Because of people. We're thinking that kids aren't the competition's not as important as we think.
No.
It is.
No, exactly. And things are better. As we're discovering, things are better without competition.
And you can do it in such a way where the kids who love competition still feel like it's a competition.
Now, the next thing we need to talk about, Dan, is the separating of the story team away from everybody else. We are talking here about everybody is a leader, and most of them have a group of kids in a cabin.
Yes.
Then there is a bunch of our
camp.
backbone of camp. Then there's our staff, and they have multiple roles. But the only thing that Dan and I pretty much do these days is what we do is story, and that story is understood not just by the kids but by the leaders as well. We do things, for example, we've done every camp, we hide the owl. Steve the owl and his family, we hide him. And this is the important part that relies on technology. You need a central place to display updatable information.
Yes.
So you'll see we have a iMac that sits in the center of camp. I've got video of it. I should be putting over this top. If you'd like to see that and you're listening on Spotify or on podcast, jump onto YouTube. And check it out. But we have a central iMac, and we update that on our phones using the magic of the internet and our friend Carlos, who can program things. And we will update on our phones the points where the owls are. We do these incredible hints that are very difficult to figure out, and kids will be searching all over the campsite. Now, that's what Dan and I focus on, pure fun and engagement for the kids. And running through that, all the camp is the checklist. So kids are checking the list off as they go through camp. And that's it. Like, if you think about the fun things that we're doing here, there's all the activities that we do, but it's the thing that you're working on over the whole camp at your own pace, focusing on the things that you want to do as a camper. Our leaders were getting very fired up about these hints as well, because they had to help their kids find them, and it was hilarious seeing them more excited about finding the owl as well. So that's another way, that story. But that team that we're doing, we're not looking after cabins or kids.
No.
We are purely, and in our rallies when we're gathered together, we are also pushing that story forward.
Yeah.
Yes, we did have points. Yes, we did have tribes, but sometimes the tribe groupings is just more about what kids got to what activities than it is about the competition.
It all goes back to that goal. Is everything outside, everything that goal, everything they did led towards that. So they were finding owls because that was on their checklist.
Yep.
They're finding owls to also because they earned points, which is part of the other goal, which was to win summer camp. That's kind of always there.
It's always in the background a little bit. The one time we've never had a winning tribe was when, and one of the most beautiful stories that we've done was there were 4 tribes at our big kids event, Hillsong, and we created a game, the video game, Dan, and one of our kids, one of the tribes got destroyed. What happened there?
So it was a game called Battleship. And the goal was to defeat the computer in Battleship. And whenever your tribe earned enough tickets, they would level up, their power would increase, and then their champion, their leader, could choose, being advised by their children, whether they should have a shot to
at the
try and
Battleship.
win the game. The more power, the more space they would have in their shot. Unfortunately, the game got hacked.
Oh.
And the
Terrible.
computer started firing back, which
Yes.
is not supposed to happen because the hacker had things. So it changed from this game of we're trying to beat the other teams to, hang on, we are actually versus the hacker who's trying to destroy us, and he actually took out a team, and that team was deleted from existence.
Yes. So all of a sudden we've got a missing tribe. That tribe is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. But there's a way to save it, Dan. What do we have to do?
So the other teams decided with the support of all their children, like hundreds of kids yelling, yes, do it, or a couple of kids go, no, to sacrifice all of their power, all of their levels, all of their tickets, everything that they've worked the entire week to try and revive this tribe that had been defeated.
And it worked.
So
we're talking maybe 250 kids each in one of these tribes.
They all
So
decided
massive
to go
groups of kids.
back to square one to try and get this tribe back in.
So the goal was that they worked together to bring the tribe back, and then the goal became, no, let's not fight each other, let's not compete against each other, let's defeat the hacker. So you create a common enemy out there, and that was a magical event for us because the story all the way through was this kind of the idea of redemption, working together to defeat the common enemy. Beautiful. There was at the end of the conference not even a win because they defeated the hacker.
There wasn't a winner. Funny enough, one of the tribe goes, well, we kind of won because we did the last thing on it. And we're like, yes, of course.
Sure you did.
Yeah. So I said, we won because we did the, yes, yep, you were the winner.
And it doesn't matter because nobody felt like a loser.
Correct.
And that was really the goal for us. Now, so if you're thinking about these moments, we have rallies throughout the day, moments where you do praise and worship and preaching, and that's when you advance the storyline. And then when you're outside of the rally with the kids, they are advancing what you've been given. So it's always moving forward the story. And we're talking at camp, it might have been, how many sessions we did? We probably talked about our story for, how long for each rally did you have to talk about it?
Oh, you only need about 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. And this idea doesn't dominate all of our rallies. You still focus obviously about worship, praise, Jesus, talking about him and the message that you want to give. But this is this underlying. It's like the mechanics of the video game that you've promoted to all of your kids. So what we're saying, the one secret that will make your kids camp 132% better is game mechanics.
Game mechanics. And the great thing about that is every year you can have the same game mechanics.
Right.
You just change the game.
This actually, here's a good point that you made earlier today, Dan. Kids, big brothers, big sisters, will have their little sisters go to camp like they did, and they'll be like, oh, you should check out my trading cards. There was the president, and he was this guy that was in charge of Kidsong, and the story that year was the president was kidnapped, was he? I can't even remember. But
I don't know.
the trading cards, which we're still doing every big event that we do, tell a story. And so you're getting generational buy-in, not because you're doing a jungle theme, but because of the game mechanics and the story that you told over your camp and your series. Dan Liacha, we've done it.
We did it.
We've explained the secret.
Success!
The secret to children's ministry. If you would like to ask questions of us and any other guests that we have, please email us at
thevault@hillsong.com.
We would love to read those questions. We definitely need more questions, Dan, right? Because, and especially if you're wondering, how does this game, we want to know, if you're really wondering how does this game mechanic thing work, we would love to get in more depth about it. Only if you want it, though.
We could do a masterclass on it.
Masterclass.
Yeah.
We could give the examples of what we have done. All right. Thank you very much for joining us on The Vault. Hopefully you got some wisdom from that. I'm Dave Wakerley. He's a funny man Dan, also known as Dan Liacha. See you next time.
Bye.